To see a world in a grain of sand, and heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of his hand, and eternity in an hour.
Now that every house has its clock, and every man his watch, are not our days cut and hacked wretchedly into small portions? Are not our lives in danger of becoming entirely mechanical under the constant swinging of pendulums and uncoiling of mainsprings? It is the time element that impoverishes work, and he who obsequiously complies with the humors of men, fulfilling the letter rather than the spirit, is correctly called a time server. The best things cannot be finished to order in a given period of time. Michelangelo must work when the spirit is upon him. Great frescoes and cathedrals grow out of minds that conceive and execute them as trees rise from the earth. He who would perform his task well must make of it no task at all. Count time as you please, by lunar, solar, sidereal, or tropical years, and it is the same. One year is as good as another. Any one of them might as well end in June as in December. The boundary lines are imaginary, and every moment marks the expiration of 12 months. No rising sun but lights a new year. December comes to an end, and at midnight the sun completes its revolution through the ecliptic, and the earth its circuit round the sun. But faith hears no song in the heavens, and science discovers no clicking of celestial machinery and no rush of aerial currents. As ships cross lines of latitude and longitude without experiencing any change in temperature, so the ship of human life sails over the years and marks not the passage. And how variable and unreliable is human perception in this matter. Have as many clocks and watches as you please, still, we live in feelings, not in figures on a dial, and count time by heartthrobs. We believe our own pulses against all the chronometers in the world. We may whisper to ourselves, there are but 60 minutes in the hour. Nevertheless, happy hours fly, and sad ones creep. The poet strives to see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of his hand, and eternity in an hour. Many a sorrowful heart has found eternity in less than an hour. The criminal, awaiting execution, may live through vast ages in a single second. A sailor, escaped from the perils of a shipwreck, described his 24 hours upon a floating spar as longer than all the years of his life. As the infant, opening its eyes in mingled wonder, fear, and delight to the changing scenes of this busy world, has no idea of either time or space, but reaches out its little hands to grasp the distant moon, and is impatient of every delay in the gratification of its fancies, so the dying who measure the flying moments, not by figures on a dial, but by heartthrobs and teardrops, sometimes lose all sense of time just before they pass from it into eternity. Time is but another name for those little divisions we make in eternity, and eternity is the expanse of God's infinite existence. The hours, days, weeks, months, years, centuries, and millenniums are but faint shadows upon the glowing disk of his vast duration. Consider the magnitude of time. An hour is exhaustless. No one ever emptied a second. As animalculae swim without sense of confinement in a drop of water, so our lives float in the present moment. We never live in more than 1 second at a time, and yet we experience no constraint and have all the space we require. We cry for more time and cannot dispose of what we already have. We possess not too little, but too much. We waste what we have. We nibble at an hour and then leave it for another, as a mouse gnaws at a cheese many times its size, which it cannot devour. Men are praying for eternity, who wasted yesterday and are utterly unable to dispose of today. Before the day arrives, it has no existence, and when it is over, there still remains to it no existence. Thus are all our marks upon the sand, washed out by the flowing tides of a sea no man may compass. To one who has been dead a day, it is practically the same to him, so far as the earth is concerned, as if he had been in the grave 100,000 centuries. The shallowest grave is bottomless, and yet into a grave so deep the human soul looks with unshaken confidence and dares to exclaim, "This corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality." Many evocative ideas presented in this passage, many gems to contemplate. Let's talk about a few of them. The best things come about on their own time and won't be rushed. Bubbling, that's how I would describe the forces of creation. Long simmering, fermenting, arriving unannounced. Who can forecast the moment when fiery inspiration will take us into the sky, move us into a fit of passion to produce something that moments before we weren't even thinking about? Writers, painters, musicians, thinkers all state that there are moments completely unprovoked when the floodgates open, the stars align, and their best work pours out of them. The source of this phenomenon still evades us, and many souls search in vain for a mechanistic, formulaic process that may spark such a creative outpouring. If there is any secret to spurring this fountain, it is that he who would perform his task well must make of it no task at all. Another idea that piqued my interest while reading this passage was that every moment marks the expiration of 12 months. Or, poetically expressed, no rising sun, but lights a new year. In the Western world, January 1st is commonly held as the new year. What a shift in mentality to perceive every day as a new year. And along that logic, every moment a new year. You see where this train of thought takes us. And to go further, if every January 1st we forgive ourselves for the past year's failures and recommit to being better people, then in light of this new idea, we should, every day, every moment, grant ourselves pardon and recommit to being better. I like this idea. It's empowering. Some of the ideas in this passage are more mysterious than others, like this one. Have as many clocks as you please. We live in feelings, not in figures on a dial, and count time by heartthrobs. We believe our own pulses more than all the chronometers in the world. This, to me, represents the conflict between individual intuition, a feeling we may have, and settled scientific norms of the day. What's more settled than figures on a dial? Trusting your gut is age-old advice. Listening to your heart. The author's statement, "We count time by heartthrobs," is beautifully provocative. What do you think the author means by this? That time doesn't exist? Only love? How do you count time by a heartthrob? Hey, how about this idea? That a criminal awaiting his execution lives vast ages in a mere second. And a shipwrecked sailor expressing that one day floating on a piece of wood in the middle of the ocean was longer than all the years of his life. Can time even be measured? Or is its measurement relative to the individual experiencing it? So many questions. I have my perspective, limited as it is, ever growing, hopefully, but I would really like to hear your thoughts on some of these ideas. We make gains by sharing with each other. Who knows who may stumble into our comment section and read something that changes their life. What do you think was the most valuable takeaway from Eternity in an Hour by Frederic Rowland Marvin? Share your wealth with the rest of us. Oh, and this week, try to remember these words from Mr. Marvin. Men beg for eternity who wasted yesterday. Seize the day. There is always more to learn.